Hello and welcome to The Art of Growth, where we use the Enneagram and the best tools we can find to help you transform. This month, we're doing something special. We are talking about rhythms and establishing rhythms in our life, and we're specifically taking 30 days to do a challenge around morning routines. And this week's episode, we're talking about resistance. We want to go through each type and talk about why each type can have resistance to establishing rhythms in their lives. But before we get to that, a couple things that are cool and exciting going on right now. The first thing is we have our own practitioner's Enneagram certification starting next month, January of 2022. And you can sign up for that at our website or get in contact with Joel to see what that would look like for you to participate in a 3-month certification program with us. We also have group coaching opening for 2022 as well. And there'll be more about this coming out on the newsletter, which will come out this week. If you're not subscribed, you can sign up at our website, www.theartofgrowth.org, or you can take one of our free online tests and you'll get an email after that. But for now, my friends, we're keeping it short and sweet today, but we want to get into resistance by type to establishing rhythms that actually help us become more ourselves. Because we are funny creatures in the way that we fight against our own greatest desires. And part of intentional living and integration is moving through that. So, I'm Jim Zartman, and I'll be talking to Joel Hubbard about this today. So, hopefully you are already about a week into the rhythms you're trying to create, the ones we proposed as a challenge in the last episode, where we are talking about establishing a morning routine that awakens the body, awakens the heart, and awakens the mind. And so we thought one of the things that we, briefly addressed in the previous episode, but we wanted to talk a little bit about is this resistance to rhythms. So the first thing that came to mind was how someone used to talk to me about budgets. And I think it was like a low self-pres thing, but when I was in my 20s, I would hear those kinds of languages, and there was some kind of like internal resistance that I didn't recognize why, but it felt like prison. It felt like another way to control me. And I just had someone just in passing being like, yeah, it's a tool, not a prison. And there was something very freeing about that. And I think when it comes to rhythms, there's this honoring that it's a tool, not a prison. That's what I want to remember, that it's a tool, not a prison. But I realize whenever I come up to those that I have a resistance of my own making. And I'm guessing there's different resistances by type. But mine is this thing going to control me even if I'm the one who made it?
Right. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
You make your rhythm and then you rebel against it. Yeah.
Oh, I totally do.
Yeah.
I've done that many times.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely human nature. All of us, I think, have resistances to it. And for me, when I would hear rhythms, I would immediately go, ugh, snore, here we go.
Oh, it just sounded boring.
It's so boring. I'm out. I don't even want to, if the first thing I heard on a podcast was, hey, we're going to talk about rhythms, I'd go to the next one. I'd go to a different one. I would totally skip it, not even pay attention. Because to me, it sounds like that's what people who are not like sevens, that's what they do. It's like, it's not people who are high energy and want to do a lot of things and want to have a lot of fun in life. They don't have rhythms. And so that was my resistance. And I can imagine for people that like stimulation, it's really difficult. By definition, rhythms aren't designed for stimulation. They're
stimulation meaning like excitement.
Excitement. Right. Yeah. It's not the adrenaline. It doesn't trigger the adrenaline. It isn't the thing that activates it. If anything, it feels like it slows it down. Okay, rhythm, right? Because you think of rhythm as it's a beat, it's a steady thing, you know. You think of routines that way. So that was my resistance to it initially. I was talking to a client who said his life is so exhausting as it is day to day that the last thing he wants to do is to have proper rest, like go to sleep at a certain time. It's like, no, I don't want to, because now I want to watch something that helps me to get escape from the difficult day that I've had. So, and I think I can hear that in a lot of folks who because of how difficult life is in the current moment, a bowl of ice cream at 11 p.m. sounds great. But then what that does, of course, is it sets you up. Like I know clients of mine who said that they would, because of their day, they would drink at night. So they would drink and then it would affect their sleep, right?
Yep.
And then the next day they're tired. And so they're working from a place of deficit, which when you're tired, then you don't have the bandwidth to actually create any sort of healthy decisions. And so now you're using sugar as a means to, or carbs as a means to get your energy back up.
Yeah. It's a relief, right? To create relief, to create what I need in this moment, right?
But you can see that become a cascading effect because the next day you're tired. Because you're tired, you can't make good decisions. And so then those decisions that you just made then have their own consequences, and on it goes, right? So it's really difficult to exit that once you've started down that cascading, domino thing. Super, super hard. So yeah, those are some of the things I thought of immediately. I was, I can hear that. I can hear that resistance. I can feel it in me.
Yeah, and I'm guessing if people are struggling in this first week with it, noticing your resistance. So taking some time to actually notice what kind of resistance is cropping up in you as a result of this. Because, we mentioned yours, the 7, not exciting, mine 8, it feels like external control. I imagine for the 9, it's like, well, this disrupts what is. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of disruption in what I'm already doing. I don't want to rock the boat by creating new elements or putting new demands on it, so I could see that creating an issue. What do you think it would be for the 1?
Well, I think some would say, okay, how do I do this and how do I do it right? So then it becomes another performance. It becomes another activity, another right thing to do that adds to the responsibility that then feels like another weight that's added on.
Yeah.
And rhythms are not to be that. They're not they should not be a weight that is added on to you, but it should be a pathway to, instead of that cascading downward effect that I was just describing, circumstances that you're tired, now you're making poor decisions. Instead of that, the rhythms are designed to lead you upward. So designed to actually give you your best life.
Yeah, and we've said this from the beginning, like so much of our work is not about becoming less of yourself, which is what it can feel like whenever you change anything.
Yeah.
Or if I look at something and I don't want to see that, or it's just like, am I going to become less of myself? And can be anxiety around that. Yeah. We saw that with the instincts. Like if you have a repressed instinct, we talk about dialing up the repressed instinct. There's this visceral resistance feel that I'm going to become less of myself if I become more of my resisted instinct.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I feel that right now just talking about it.
It is. It's hard because you're going to experience some of that. But it's not becoming less of yourself. It's becoming more of yourself. It's actually becoming who you are in a more full capacity. It's actually releasing your high side of yourself because we believe the best of you is permanent. And so we come back to that. So what came to mind for the 2 is that tendency of like the prioritization of others' needs.
Yeah.
Getting in the way of me taking this time for myself. And I have dealt this with all the different like heart types, especially the 2s and the 3s, because I externalize so much of my energy and my effort, and so much of my life rhythms are about others. I think for the 2 especially, right now, having something where you tune into your own need first thing in the morning is going to change something about your day, but you may experience some resistance to the prioritization
of yourself.
Oh
yeah. I think for the 3,
I can do this.
Similar. Yeah.
First ones to do it.
Totally. I got this.
I got this.
Yeah. I nailed it. 30 out of 30. I nailed it. It's awesome, right?
Good on you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And that's, again, I love that. We can laugh at all of ourselves because we're all so funny in the ways that we go about this. The resistances are so funny. So yeah, I mean, it's for the 3, it would be about nailing it, getting it, succeeding at it. But again, similar to the heart types, turning back towards what is mine? What is my priority? What is actually going to help me and be good for me? And that's something that, I'm talking to one heart type right now, a type 3, who's going through a bit of a liminal space, kind of in between spaces and not sure what to do. But the thing that's interesting is she's at a place where she can see very clearly, I love this. I think I like this. This is what I really like, but difficult to then create rhythms around that. Like, How do you create rhythms around the thing you love? Because it's so hard when the appeal is so much easier to, I can do this, this, and this and succeed at those things. So yeah, it's going to be tuning into the thing that is, but what do you love? What is the thing you want to create that's really you, that feels like you?
And some of the threes, I know they do resist when it comes to the awaken the heart piece because they're afraid of what they'll see. They're afraid that that'll actually somehow derail them from the focus and getting stuff done. So there could be an aspect of the awakening the heart piece that could crop up. So if that's you, you know, you have to make space for that. You have to understand that, like, no, it's really going to be okay. Like you really can see your own heart. You can awaken your own heart. You can awaken your own desires and not just externalize the performative side of you. And it's going to be good. It's going to be worth it. For the 4, you know, I can imagine just the thing that comes to mind is this resistance to, like, well, this doesn't feel good. Like, I'm not feeling like these pieces are helpful. For some 4s, there's this resistance to this change because I'm looking for a particular feeling and this doesn't necessarily do that. And especially if it starts with awakening the body, because that's going to be the, you know, body repressed of the 3 centers, your heart center, awakening the heart. You're going to be there, you know, writing out your feelings, whatever. That's going to be great. The mind's going to be great. But that awakening the heart piece, it could be difficult because it's like the emotions around awakening the body don't have that feeling of goodness before doing it. It does after. But before, the feeling, the emotion around it can often be
This is true for creatives in general. So 4s, 7s, and even though the types that have a strong bend towards creativity, originality, it's very difficult to do things that are rhythmic. It's very difficult to do things because the creativity becomes boss, becomes a thing in you that you want to give room for, allow. And so if there's a moment of, ooh, I'm drawn by this, then I want to go do that. If I'm not drawn by that, then I don't want to do that. And so the mundane rhythm becomes really difficult for 4s. And it does feel like if I'm doing this, it's confining my personality and my creativity. It reduces it in some way. But staying present to that, like, okay, well, that's what I feel. That's what I feel in this moment. But I'm going to do, this is what I'm doing. I had a 4 say to me, I literally say to myself, this is what I'm doing right now.
That's a great phrase.
Yeah. It's so good. It's like, okay, that's the activity I'm doing, and that's the focus. Right? And it doesn't have to be better than anybody else. Doesn't have to matter to anybody else. Doesn't have to be special or significant. In fact, what I would say to 4s is do that activity and do it very blandly if you can. You're going to want to put some stuff in there, but see if you can stay a little bit longer in the, I'm not going to pour a ton of energy, because what happens for 4s is so much energy goes into wholehearted. They're the wholehearted people. They just put their whole hearts into the things that they do. But you can't do that with everything in your life. And so as a result, you get burned out, you get tired from doing things after a period of time. So do that, but don't do it with a ton of energy. See if you can pull back on that. And I would say that for any type that puts a ton of energy into the things that they do, just pull back a little bit on the rhythms. Again, look for places of receptivity to relax, to breathe in, and look for places of initiation.
So what about the 5? What do you think the main resistance that could come up for the 5 might be?
For 5s, routines are something that they naturally put into their lives for the most part. They have them. But those routines don't necessarily produce the resources that it's more of a holding back. It prevents the loss of resource as opposed to genuinely create resource. And I think for 5s, it's rethinking some of those. Are these practices, these rhythms, are they actually producing the results that I'm seeking? And if you really look at the scoreboard of your, the scoreboard you have of your life, like, who do I want to be? And if I see that I tend to be more withholding, then these routines are just ways of and maybe some of the routines are ways of maintaining that energy or withholding, keeping it, storing it. And then reevaluating some of those and then maybe trying some new ones that are more body oriented and more heart oriented. So what are the things that are creating emotion, that are evoking emotion in me? If you don't have that as a head type in your life, it's not going to bring out the best in you. In the same way that we just said for 4s and for heart types, if you don't bring in the body piece of it as part of the rhythm, it's not going to bring out the best in you.
Yeah, what came to mind for the 5 is not that it's not the rhythm, the concept of the rhythm
Right.
that it's going to be resistant. But it's aspects of it,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the body or the heart. And I thought of the 1-5. I think we had on our panel at one point talking about this idea of like writing out the morning pages was a ritual he was doing, and it's like writing out my thoughts, and it's like pages and pages, like writing out my emotions. And he's like, it'd be like 4 lines.
4 lines,
But he's like, it was better than doing nothing.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
like absolutely,
It's
just,
fantastic.
Just
Yes.
doing that and being like,
Yes.
oh, okay, this is a part of me.
Yeah.
I'm not denying it. I'm not resisting it, and this is a safe space to do it and engaging with part of it. So it's not so much the rhythm, but for some, or having a ritual or a rhythm that is the resistance, but for some, it's an aspect of.
Oh, I love what he
that.
did, because he repurposed his
Totally.
rhythm, right? And
Yeah.
said, well, let's see. Oh, okay, repurpose it. Add the heart piece.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
It's great. So the last one, then we covered the 7. So the last one is then the 6, the resistance of the 6. Like what comes up for you when you think
Yeah,
of
I mean,
that?
there's always an emergency, right? There's always some kind of things that grab a hold of the attention of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so rhythms are tougher because rhythms require restraint from the reaction to, oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, there's this that I should be doing. So those are the things that tend to draw the attention of the 6 much more so than what are the patterns, what are the rhythms, what are the practices that produce and nurture life within me. And oftentimes those fall way back.
Yeah.
So similar to the type 2, a 6 tends to put their attention on the things around them that need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a beautiful thing and it's a wonderful thing, but where it loses its power and its potential of being even greater is that the forgetting of the self in that. So for 6s, it's is there some kind of practice that I can engage in that may not be immediately the first thing I do, but can it be the second or third thing that I do? Can I intentionally fool myself into like, okay, after I do this, oh yeah, I have a gap between this and this, and I don't need to fill it with something that I think is so what can I do with that space in between, and use it for, all right, I'm going to do heart stuff now. Again, head type, get into the heart.
Yeah.
And what inspires you? What pulls at your heartstrings? What causes you to awaken? Is it art? Is it some kind of music, a particular kind of music that does that for you? Mm-hmm. Use that, meditate around it. You can be in your car. You can be waiting to pick up your kid, and you're doing that. That to me that's the key thing. It's not adding so much more to your list as a 6.
Right.
Whereas other types that tend towards having pretty full minds, even if their calendars aren't as full. Some 6s, their calendars are jammed. Others not so much, but it's the mind that's always full. It's in what way can you use this moment right here, and instead of, oh, let me listen to this mindless stuff, let me do this. It's like, no, repurpose that time and use it for something. But make it a rhythm. Make it like I'm going to do this for 30 days, whatever that is. Every time I pick up my kid, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
That I think is key.
Yeah, I think the first thing that came to mind is like the 6s that I've talked to are the most likely to kind of, when you ask them, it's all of these things are going on and I have to be thinking about all these things and I have to be managing all these external things. And so I don't feel like I have a choice. There's almost like a disempowered voice that comes across with a lot of that. And so if you're a 6 and you're feeling that disempowered, that thing like, well, I just can't because of all of these, notice that resistance. Notice that might be the resistance that comes up for you. Or someone else who has that like strong 6th sense. It's like, I just can't. I feel disempowered. I don't feel like I can do anything about this because of yada, yada, yada. All the circumstances. So I think it's just the point today is to recognize resistance, And this is something we want to be really good at in every area of our lives. And this is just a good way to practice that thing. But recognize your resistance. Recognize the thing that you go, no. What makes me want to pull back? Pull back from sharing emotionally. Pull back from a rhythm. Pull back from this kind of growth. Pull back from not doing something that brings me that instantaneous comfort instead of delaying a little bit and saying, I love the 4 phrase of this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I think all of us can benefit from that. There's something that's really beautifully heart in that. And what also came to mind when I heard that was just like, this is why we talk to so many people and bring what they teach to everyone else, because like every type is the most brilliant on them.
Yeah.
So
this is why you have to tell us what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
please.
It's going to help.
I mean, it's the stuff that then goes right back out to folks, So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just wanted to cover this resistance thing. So if you're in this process, if you're trying to establish these rhythms, you're experimenting, you're trying to come up with different ways to be more of yourself. And that's what we're trying to do, is provide paths to be more of yourself. Then hopefully this helps you get at some of the mechanisms that could be getting in the way so that you can see them. And when you can see them, you can observe them, then you can start to question them. You can be curious about them, and you can kind of continue to experiment as far as ways around them. And that's it. Like, that's the message of today. That's what we wanted you to hear and kind of process, just to notice that thing that goes off in all of us. So thanks for joining us, and thanks to those who are already responding on Instagram and sending us emails about your routine and some of the things that you're discovering as you experiment with it or try different things or leaning into some of the space with intentionality. I love hearing it. It's really, really cool to hear from that and receive some of that feedback. So throughout this process, I will be posting more on Instagram. It's just Art of Growth. And keep an eye out for the newsletter this week as well. And as always, if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, you can sign up for that on our website and schedule with any of us. But for now, my friends, this week, notice your resistance. Notice the desire to grow in a direction, and notice the resistance that comes up to it. May you be keenly aware and curious about your own resistance so that you can ever become the greatest expert on you and learn how to move yourself forward. Grace and growth, my friends.